We have our own private place now.
Yeah. Last time I was in here, I was talking to Jurassic 5.
Nice.
You guys fans of them?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like the hippity hop music?
Yeah.
You do a cover of Crazy in Love, so you gotta like it a little bit.
Yeah, man. You know, buy once, Beyonce.
You busting that on tour? God only knows any of those covers? That version is awesome.
Oh,
by the way.
Thanks, man. That's like sacred ground, you know. You can't screw that up. So, but yeah, we've done a few covers. We did the Bad Religion, Sorrow. That's kind of a
okay, cool. Just making sure.
kind of a good. I don't know. That's one of my favorite
Bad
Religion songs.
That's a little different for you guys.
That song's amazing, man. We all grew up listening to Bad Religion and all the Epitaph bands, you know.
Oh, really?
I
guess it's just up the road, right?
Yeah, and like the surf videos back then, it wasn't so much Jack Johnson. It was pretty much like, you know, all the Pennywise and Sprung Monkey and all those bands. So that's kind of, I guess, if you went surfing, that was what you listened to on the way down to the beach, you know.
A little more pump up than what the surfing music is now.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video though, the Broke Down Melody movie?
I love his. I think his films are a lot better than his music. I think he's great. I think his films are amazing though.
Yeah, they're great.
They really capture the vibe of what it is to be on the road in a foreign country, you know, trying to find surf.
You're not going to find that up here.
Yeah. We'll get some tomorrow, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where are you off to?
Edmonton.
Oh.
So the mall there has.
Oh yeah, of course. I've never been up there.
Yeah. So we usually bring boards, if you know, just to try and see what we can scare up, you know. So we're going to try and see if we can kind of block everybody out of the wave pool for an hour or so and see what we can do.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, I'm sure. You got the star power now.
Just try. You got to try. If you know anyone up there, let them know we're coming.
Do you notice that a lot of do you have the star power now, or you can just, I'm from Switchfoot. I get in the restaurant.
No, man.
Usually it works the other way.
Yeah, you
get out.
You're trying to get into the country or something, and you say, "Hey, we're playing a show up here in Canada," and they're like, "Oh, okay,
and you got the
get
weed
in that
on the
line."
bus,
and you look over, and it's like the long 100-person line.
I think the funny thing is when people they'll come, like we had this one meal where like everyone in the restaurant came over and wanted a picture and autograph. It's cool. It's cool. It's really fun, and people are friendly. We're friendly, and but at the same time, it can be a little awkward because it kind of almost presupposes the idea that you want people to notice you, and I have a really hard time with that, because I'm fairly awkward in that type of situation. I don't know. It
must be an awkward thing to have people. You're kind of like a product in that regard.
Yeah, and then people, when if people ask, so you're in a band, what band are you in? And then they apologize if they haven't heard of you, which is kind of a strange phenomenon because it's like the idea is that there's some desire to be everywhere, to be a household name, which I don't think we've ever had as a band, so it's the type of thing where it's like, oh, there's no need for apology, we're loving exactly where we're at,
But at the same time, you're writing music probably to get out there to people, right? To send a message. There's a lot of political songs in this record. At least the record starts off that way.
Yeah.
You kind of want people to at least to think, right?
Well, you want to get the songs out there, but you certainly, I think, the point of the music is never to get your face out there, and I think a lot of times songs can change the world in very subtle ways. They affect maybe the scenery of the stage more than the dialogue, but it affects the plot in a much more subtle way. I think for us it's kind of been maybe a Socratic dialogue that we've kind of adopted in our songwriting, where it becomes asking questions rather than delivering, patent answers.
Yeah.
So.
Is that why you decided to go kind of political with the first few songs? You upset with the way things are going?
No. I think politics is something that is unavoidable. The cereal you purchase in the morning, down to the milk, down to the microphone you're talking in, it all comes in a place and a specific location and time, which is, completely influenced by politics. The metal in the microphone is influenced by the trade that goes on. So, to some extent, we are products of politics, and politics is a product of who we are as well.
What are you thinking for this next election? I'm sorry, it's just going off my head here. Don't mean to get all political and deep. We should be talking about music, and we will.
Yeah.
But, I'm just thinking, it's like there's candidates on both sides, and I'm like, I like Giuliani. I like Obama. It should be interesting this time.
For the
finally.
first time in a little while, you're not voting to vote against somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You're voting actually for somebody, So it's one of those things where that's exciting, I think that hopefully there'll be a larger turnout because it's that type of an election. It's a lot easier to vote for someone than against somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's almost like the reason why we all believe in democracy is because we don't trust each other. We trust each other
to a certain degree.
Yeah, we have an equal mistrust for everyone. So that way, we put the power in everyone's hands, and we'll somehow be all right.
Do you think your country's ready for a black president? I mean, I'd like to think so, but honestly,
I hope so. I hope that. I think so. I mean, I think that it would dramatically influence. It would change everything, in race relations in a lot of, especially the South,
Do you notice it in San Diego? I mean, I remember living in L.A. and you didn't hear about it as much, but I'm thinking, like, you guys tour a lot and you go to Mississippi and Alabama. I bet it's still... still be something like that.
Those things are so tied to generations, It's such a generational thing, and so it's hard to know. I mean, certainly among our peers, everyone's excited.
Yeah, you work in music, right? Everyone loves everyone.
It's such a kind of forward-thinking community that we run in that it's hard to know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, again, it's the idea that whatever is different is somehow strange or offensive, or I think that type of mindset is always kind of the fallback for humanity. Whether it's sex or race or religion, we tend to throw stones at the things that aren't like the way we think. So I hope that wouldn't play a part in the election, but I think to some extent, like Tim said, with older generations, I'm sure people would have a hard time with it. Yeah, but I think it could definitely change. I mean, certainly the voter turnout in different segments of the population that hasn't been there in the past would certainly be coming out to the polls.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
and I think if he did get elected, I think it would change even the Middle East conflict. I mean, they realize that you guys want to change, something's different.
Yeah,
you're more accepting, and I think that's kind of what you need right now.
I mean. I think in many ways, a black president would be amazing, but in many ways, it's almost like you have to go all the way and get a black woman president to really see change.
Well, there was one running, I remember, in the Democratic primaries last year. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, and I don't know that the world's ready for or America's ready for that, but I mean that would certainly mix it up.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Let's talk about the record. We should get on some music.
All right, let's talk about some music.
Yesterday's pops out of nowhere on the record. You got the electric sounds, then you got this really cool little melodic tune in there, and then it goes back to the electrics. What made you I would probably have closed the record out with that, but you decided to throw it in with like track 9, which is always the best track on a CD, I've noticed, and this one happens to be the case. And what made you throw it in the middle?
Well, it is a little bit different than the rest of the record, and that was the reason why we didn't want to close with it. It felt like it ended the record on kind of a reluctant, kind of inside type of note, where it's a little bit more introspective, and the record really isn't that, and so we wanted to fit it in there, but we had to push it a little earlier. I think for us, Tim, I wrote that with Tim, and for both of us it kind of takes on different meanings for where we were when we wrote it, but I mean, essentially it's a song about loss, and I think loss is something that's essential to being human. But at the same time, pain is never a fun topic to talk about. Yeah, so it's one of those things where sometimes writing a song about it can kind of bring closure.
Yeah. Now, when you say you wrote it together, how did that work for you guys? Did you come up with a guitar riff and the piano, or how did that one come together?
I think it was in Portland, right? It was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and John had this really pretty melody. and actually yesterday was one of the lyrics in the melody.
Okay.
So it kind of had it already kind of an infant stage there, and we just it just really actually wrote itself pretty quickly in a matter of like 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it is a pretty, I think, emotional experience because, just writing in that headspace and trying to come to closure with these different instances that we were both kind of wrestling with at the time. It really makes you appreciate what you do have when you're writing about issues of loss. It makes you kind of take a second look at who's around you and appreciate them a whole lot more.
Yeah, lucky to be brothers in a band too. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And things are going well, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, we always get the question about, like,
I'm not going to go there.
And Oasis and, Blood and Guts, And, I mean, we get along pretty well, Yeah. I think every brother's going to have fights every now and then.
Well, it's just like band members, right?
Yeah, I fight with the other guys, too. I don't want anyone to be excluded.
That song, at least, reminds me of, like, the first time I heard Switchfoot, Learning to Breathe, back in, like, first year university, and it was going back to that sound. But you guys, the past few records have been more anthemic, more, like production. A lot more production, a lot more, bigger sound. What made you change and go in that direction? Was it just like, let's try this?
I mean, the production on this whole record has been dramatically different, and a lot of that has been kind of an intentional shift. I think I'm just kind of, I mean, for all of us, we wanted to go to a different place. That's kind of why we went with Palmer and Lillywhite to make this record, because we felt like they were offering kind of more of a timeless approach to music making, simply because they made a lot of our favorite records 20 years ago, So
who else did Palmer work with? I mean, I know Lillywhite, but
Palmer's, I mean, he's done U2, obviously.
Oh, really?
He's done Pearl Jam. The Cure.
So basically the biggest bands ever. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 10.
Yeah, that's his.
He's the one who kind of.
See, I heard the band doesn't like it though. There's too much reverb. I read something
he didn't. They didn't like the way that he mixed it.
Oh, okay.
Because he was kind of transitioning from that more reverberant days of mixing.
That may have been the last big record that had a big sounding like reverb out.
Yeah, I think it was, man. But it's one of those things where for the production of Awakenings, he actually implemented this idea that came from kind of the old school days, where you'd set up a loop of tape that you'd run around the 24-track machine, where you'd sing one note, and then by looping the tape around a mic stand, it would go on indefinitely, right? That one note. Yeah, so then you'd sing, and then you'd sync up another tape machine and record that note onto the tape machine.
That's nuts.
And then by doing that, you end up getting a chord of voices of all one person singing one note, and then you put all of those tracks up on the faders of the board, and you play it like an instrument. So it's
I have to re-listen to that song.
Yeah, it's like the stuff that you hear, the voices that come in, which is kind of, I think it comes from that 10cc track, that you hear the voices coming in and they're actually being played. That's how we did that, and obviously today you don't have to use a mic stand and a loop of tape,
so Pro Tools, click the button.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster, but at the same time, it was great to be able to play my voice like an instrument. I mean, things like that. It was great to kind of go back to a little bit more of a perhaps primitive style of recording, but at the same time, I think maybe more powerful, because you're not relying on the bells and whistles. You're really fighting for the feeling of the song and really trying to make that the focus.
Yeah, how are you pulling that off live? Can you?
We actually we haven't played that song yet live. There's that one and maybe 2 other songs on the record we haven't played yet. It's one of those things where having 6 records now, you can only like put the new ones in, every so often. So, but yeah, that's probably the next one I want to learn.
Learn. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How long would it take you guys to pick up a song, a new one, throw it in? A day?
Just a sound check. I mean,
Oh, that quick?
You know, especially a song like that. It's really stripped down. I think that's been a fun thing about this record is that, you know, one of the mottos on this record was if there's a guitar being played, I want to hear what it's playing. You know, I don't want 10 or 15 guitars of just layers upon layers. I want to be able to hear that guitar part, and I want to hear that bass, and, you know, just I think there's a lot of power that can be had in simplicity.
Definitely.
And there's definitely a feeling that can be captured, you know, in that. And that's more what we were going for was a feeling versus perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for all these songs, you try and reinvent them live. You know, I've never been the type where I want to play the exact record night after night. You have to mix it up. You know, we had string players with us.
No way.
Back home in California to start and end the tour is the way
we don't get them up in Canada.
Sorry,
no.
Unless you know any nearby.
There's a couple of choirs or Philharmonic orchestras or something in town. I don't know.
Fair enough. So it's one of those things where you're always trying to mix it up and figure out ways to make it interesting for the people that are going to multiple nights and for yourself. You know, most important.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm going to a lot of shows on this tour.
Yeah, almost all.
Check them out from time to time. How do you guys choose a set list? How do you decide which old songs to throw in?
I think everyone's been doing a set list we've been taking turns.
Oh, you mix it up every night?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And not only, you know, mix up the songs, but mix up who writes the set list out. So you'll show up, you know, half hour, 45 minutes before the show, and you see the set list, and it'll be completely different than anything you would have ever imagined, you know. And
well, it's partially because, like, we all kind of space out, and then 5 minutes before the show, it's like, where's the set list? Oh, well, I wrote this. Let's use this.
Use that.
But the other reason is we're recording a bootleg of every night on this tour and sell it at the end of the show.
Oh, that's cool.
So we record like 5 or 6 songs at the beginning of the set, so by the end of the set, they're all burned and ready to go.
That's awesome.
And so that way, at the end of this, you know, if we do a different set list every night, we'll have 39 live CDs at the end of this tour.
Yeah. It's like Pearl Jam, right? They're never-ending CDs. That's kind of cool in the way that music's moving that way. It's kind of unfortunate, I mean, because, you know, iTunes, it's kind of wrecking the whole concept of an album. At least I'm thinking it will, which is too bad.
Yeah, though there's a lot of, like, indie labels and bands that are very outspoken about the idea that iTunes is ruining the record. But the record in itself is a relatively new concept.
What do you mean by that?
That back in the day, I mean, you look at all the old Motown records, or even the old stuff in rock and roll, it was all driven by singles, you know, and I think it's moving back to that, for better or for worse, you know, where it's kind of the Motown philosophy. They'd put a bunch of guys and girls in a room, and they'd play them the record, or the single, and they'd say, well, would you rather buy that or a ham sandwich? You know, and then if the vote actually was for the single, then they'd actually put it out. The rest of the stuff they just shelved, you know.
Wow.
And it was only the biggest bands that actually got to record a record. I mean, this is true for the Beatles. Their first stuff was just singles.
Yeah, just covers, right?
Yeah, and covers. So, I mean, it's nothing new. It's just, you know, if you're a fan of the record, then it's unfortunate. But at the same time, I think it's actually a victory for music in many ways, because it puts the power back into the hands of small bands rather than big industry, you know. And I think that's going to win, you know, every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I am with you. It's a catch-22 because I'm a fan of the concept of a record as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that music fans, you know, still can and will do that. You know, dive into a record and all the nuances and how it flows from the first track to the 5th to the 12th or whatever. You know, but iTunes is kind of just scratching the itch. I mean, the itch is there whether they're putting out singles or not.
Yeah.
It's just kind of what our society is moving towards, is just kind of like information on demand.
Exactly.
Quick.
Now, I was talking to the Bare Naked Ladies the other week, and they were saying that they're thinking about they're on their own label now, right? They're not a major anymore. So they were thinking, we're just going to record a song, throw it out there whenever we've done recording it. We don't really need albums anymore. Maybe one day we'll have a batch and we'll throw out a record. But, you know, they want a song, here's a song. You think you guys will do that?
I don't know. I mean, we've done that kind of all along.
Well, the new record you kind of did with the first two.
Yeah, the first two, and we released just basically for everyone who's been with us for a long time for free. there's a song that we put out online. That, and then various other little things that we've thrown at people along the way. You know, it's the type of thing where you got all these songs, and it feels like you're not doing your job if you're waiting 3 years between records. That's kind of the reason why we put this one out within a year of the last record.
I heard it was supposed to be an EP too. Is that true?
Yeah, we weren't trying to make a record. It was kind of a record by accident. You know, we
came up pretty good for an accident.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is it almost came out in a way that it couldn't have come out if we were trying to make a record. There's a honesty and kind of a anything goes attitude when you're just recording for fun. There's no commercial like, oh well, that'll never get played on radio, that's this, that's that, you know. It's like, I like it, it's cool. You know, let's go, let's move on. And then, you know, 30 songs in, we're like, wow, this is kind of starting to be cohesive. I can see certain songs kind of stacking up together. And so yeah, it was kind of a record by accident, and I'm really thankful the way it came out, because I know it couldn't have come out that way if we were really trying to make a record from the get-go.
Cool. I ask every band 5 questions, 5 quick questions, 1-word answers. I mean, some of the questions you'll see you can't give 1 word, but it'll work. You guys can both answer if you want, so come on into the mic.
I'll let you answer.
All of them? Yeah. Okay, cool.
I put me on the hot seat.
iPod or CDs?
iPod.
Lennon or McCartney?
Oh,
McCartney. I'd say he's gonna say McCartney for sure.
Yeah, I got.
Are you a little embarrassed to say that?
No, but that's just. I mean, that's a really tough question, because I love them both.
For the record, I'd go CDs too. So.
Oh yeah.
I'll
Okay.
be the yin in the game.
Well, you can both answer then.
Although I will say, at home, I only have a record player. So if there was a third answer of vinyl, I guess that would be mine.
I just hooked up my vinyl the other day. It needs a preamp still, but I'm working on it. Alcohol or marijuana?
I abstain.
Cool. Fair enough. Song you've written you're most proud of?
Probably Yesterday's.
Really? Cool. It's my favorite song on the new record. And 1 word, first thing that comes to your mind, Switchfoot. Quickly.
We.
What does we
First
mean?
thing that comes, that's who we are.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's me.
That's you.